Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Monday. It's October 6th. This will be our chart lesson for the day. And another, really, it was a range type day, but we trended higher for most of the day and we closed at the highs of the range. So on the daily chart, it looks like a bullish day. We closed much higher. We didn't make a new high today, but we closed higher today. Right now it's after 5, so we've backed off a little bit. We're selling off from what we had earlier. So, but definitely what I would call an upward day. It's just kind of a range day that closes higher. Again, is how I would describe this day. But let's flip over to the 2,000 tick chart. It'll probably make more sense. But here it looks like a really bullish day. It is an inside bar. We didn't make as nearly as high as we did on Friday, but we closed much higher than we did on Friday. So definitely a bullish day in the end. But this bar is a little deceiving when you look at how the day kind of played out. So, but let's flip over to the 2,000 tick chart, and I'll show you what I mean by that, and we'll go through the trades and we'll wrap the day up. Okay, here's our 2,000 tick chart, and you can see that we had a range there. Here's your overnight highs, your overnight lows. We had this gap that we could not fill. We couldn't penetrate this support around 67, 68, or right in that area. And you can see this is where we closed from Friday. So there was a gap on the chart. Prices tried to fill it, couldn't, reversed, and we traded higher, close outside a couple legs to a new high that did break higher outside the overnight highs, but we dropped back inside and closed, and we've continued to turn down off those highs of the range again. So after 5 o'clock, so there it is, really a range day, but it was really bullish too from 9 o'clock on, and we closed closer, much closer to the highs than we did the lows. So in the end, it closes higher. So, but yeah, you can see it's mostly a range day. And it's typical of what we see lately. We get a move, then we just kind of chop sideways. We get a move, chop sideways, get a move. Then we move down, chop sideways, move down. And wouldn't surprise me if we chop sideways here shortly. So, but there it is. Let's zoom in. We'll go through the trades. No news today to be concerned with. So, um, nothing to worry about there. But 7 o'clock came just as we're making this high again here, testing these highs. We turned back down. We bounced down here. This one's tempting, but it's just a first entry, and you might argue that's a triple test, but to me it looks like we just had a couple of tests. I mean, it's a possibility. Maybe you go long there. I'm willing to give it a green, but I'd sit tight and wait. And we run back up, and we actually make a lower high here in a second entry short. I would call this a double bottom. So first entry, second entry. Um, Signal bar looks good. I like going short one tick below that. And then we run down here and we bounce again. Now you can easily argue, hey, there's a triple test. Um, we didn't make a new low here. We're working down and we get a close outside, but we don't quite make a new low there yet. But I still think you can go long there. I marked it green because it's not a perfect setup since we didn't really make a new low. But I mean, we've bounced there three. That's clearly a triple test, and usually you can't hardly ignore those. So maybe you go long there. I marked it green. It's good for an easy scalp, not much more. And then we come down here, and you can see we're not really. Each time we've bounced, we made a lower high, and so that's not a good sign. That probably means we're going to break through here at some point and go lower, and that's exactly what happens. I don't see any setups here you can get short on, and you don't want to be trying to pick a bottom down here. Notice it works back. First entry, second entry. Unfortunately, you don't get a good signal bar. That confirms the trend line. It's a second entry. It's a close outside a new high on the micro channel working back. I mean, a lot of reasons to like that trade other than you didn't get a signal bar. So this bar is just too bullish, and so you just have to skip that one. We end up working lower here. Then we're kind of chopping sideways. I don't see anything you can trade there. We do get a close outside and a new low. This one is tempting, but really we already made a new low on this, and since we're in this channel, I would call this a new trend here. I would draw a new trend channel. You do make a new low, and I mean, that's not a convincing close outside, so I think you need to wait. But notice it's 2 legs back. Unfortunately, no setup to go short, but then you get a lower high here with a nice signal bar, so maybe you go short there. The reason I don't really like that one is we just bounced off the overnight lows. There is probably room to scalp out, so maybe you take that one. But if you didn't, if you're concerned because we just came off the lows, then you're reading the chart properly, because that would be a concern, and that's why I only marked it green. I'm not crazy about entering there, but there's reasons to like it. It's a second entry followed by a lower high. So, and then of course we bounce again, but it doesn't make it makes a lower low, and it closes right there at the lows. You're not getting rejection there yet. It ends up giving you rejection, but you hadn't seen it yet. So, and we're still in this downtrend. So I just sit tight there. Again, you might argue for that to be green. It is a second entry long because this is a new swing high. It's higher than this swing high. So maybe you argue for that to be green. But I'd wait on a higher low there, and you don't get one. It just takes off. What you do is you get a spike and channel here, but it turns out there's a bigger channel as well. So, but on the spike and channel, notice you're working up here. You end up in this range too, so you could play this. You needed to play this both ways, but on this spike and channel, notice you get a close outside and a move to a new high, and then it turns down right where we've turned down 1, 2, 3 times. So that's a triple test. I like going short there just to play a failed breakout, a break of the channel and a new high, and a triple test at the mid. It's at the midline, which is not always the greatest place, but when you've turned down that many times, that's strong. That's a triple test off strong resistance. So I like taking that trade. Because you're looking for a possible reversal here anyway, and you're looking for the failed breakout on the range here to run back down to the lows again, which it does. And then it bounces down here. But I don't think you want to go long there on just a double bottom with that big engulfing bar. You have to go long way up here, and you don't have much room to get out. And you see it does come back. It wouldn't have stopped you out, but it does come back and then pushes up. And then you get another failed breakout with a second entry. This one makes a higher high. It closes. I mean, there's still reasons to consider that one. It's a second entry too, but because it makes a higher high, I think you need a lower high, and you actually get one, but it's right into, by that time you've confirmed this trend line, and they're fighting it out, and so you don't want to go short right there, because as you see, you would have got trapped, and you can't go long right there into that resistance either. So the best thing there, just sit tight, and it runs up, and then it's sideways. Now we did get notice we got a new swing low there. It's lower than that one. So you get a first entry, second entry that fails right off the key entry point. So that's a continuation pattern. A failed second entry short, continuation pattern. Maybe you take that one. I'm not super crazy about it, but prices do try to go lower twice and fail, and it is off the key entry point, so that is a continuation pattern. If it takes off, which it does, it pulls back again before it takes off, so it's not super strong, but it works, and it is a failed second entry short, so maybe you take that one. I marked it green, but there's better trades than that, but anyway, maybe you take it. We run up here, and then we're working sideways again, and we turn down, and we actually get 2 legs down, and that's the first break of the trend channel. So and notice you get a close outside and a new low, and that's a second entry long. I like going long there. And then you get a higher low, but when this didn't take off, it looks a little sideways now. Now this looks a lot like rejection, but still you could get trapped there. So I'm not as crazy about that one. If you took it, it works. But when you got this bar right here and it didn't take off, that would lead me to think, hey, we're not getting rejection here. just sit tight. And you can see we end up just working sideways before it finally does take off. You could have easily got stopped out on that one. So anyway, it runs back up to the top, turns down, no setup there, and you get two legs back down to the low, and then you get another second entry long. And this one you do get a good signal bar. You can argue now that that's probably a triple test, and so I like that one. Um, it's an easy scout, but it doesn't really go back to the top. And then notice how you're making a lower low twice there, and it actually comes back and tests these lows one more time. And now you get another bounce here and another nice signal bar. That's definitely rejection. It looks like rejection there. And then you get a higher low. But I marked this one green. I went back and forth about this one. You're having to go long right into the midline. You haven't made a new high, swing high here, but this might be a range day and you might not get that. So I just felt like this had moved a little far to be. I mean, if you were bouncing right off this line and made a higher low and you got to go short down in here, I'd call that blue. But having to go long way up here on a higher low, I just didn't feel comfortable with it. I did mark it green. It's close to being blue, but um, I think you have to be careful with that one. And of course, it runs up. You finally get a break. It's two legs back. If it had broke above that, it would have been the second entry, but it makes a two-bar matching high, and you don't really get a close outside yet, so you can't go long on that second entry, especially with it having the two-bar matching high. It would have worked, as you can see, but it quickly runs down to a new low, and then you get a higher low on that. The problem is you can't go long either into this. This is the resistance from the overnight. That's the other reason why you really don't like that one. And that's why you can't really go long here when it gives you another opportunity. So I mean, you might even argue that's a triple test there. That's we do move away, come back, and then move away again. So maybe you could argue that's a triple test, but it doesn't matter because you can't go long into that resistance there. It works, but you don't know that ahead of time. And notice what happens here. It makes two legs up. Now that is very tempting. You could argue for that to be green on that second entry there. But you might get a measured leg up. And if you do, you're nowhere near the highs yet. You can see that would have given you a high way up here. And we don't have that yet. But now if you do draw this, you can see we do get a close outside and a new high too and then it's technically a first entry, and then you make that and then it goes higher again and turns back down, so technically your second entry is there, but it still looks like two legs up, so maybe you take that one. If you're reading it properly, it's not a second entry by the counts, so I think you're better off to see if you get something back closer to the inside of the range, and you don't. But then you make a triple test here, and you got plenty of room to get out on that one. So I like that one. And of course, it runs up first entry, second entry. And you might even argue there's a triple test, but this makes a new high, and it's not a perfect signal bar. I'd wait on the lower high, which you get here. And now you've moved too far, and you don't have any room to scalp out there. It ends up, it would have worked, but you just can't go short off either one of those two bars. But notice what happens, then it tries to go higher again. So you may treat this like a failed second entry long when it breaks lower there, because it did try to go higher even twice there and failed. It's back inside the range, so you're somewhat trading the range again. So I like that one. And it runs down, and then that takes us into 230. That's just a first entry there, so you can't go short on that one. And that takes us into 230. So it was kind of a different day. Again, it's a range day, and really you were able to play this range up, but there weren't many setups until you got the breakout here, and then now you're just playing. You're playing the channel on the way up, and then the range here. But there's not much of a setup on the way up on the channel. So your best setups were in the range here, going long off the range using range rules. So not a lot of good trades today, period. I mean, you had to just kind of, this trade early on was probably the best trade of the morning, and then you had to kind of sit tight. You got another one here about 9:30, so and then you didn't get another one till 11 o'clock, and then a few in the afternoon. So not the greatest trading day. Again, it's a range day, but we did trade higher from about 9 o'clock on until we went into the 2:30 hour, and then we just kind of chopped sideways. So again, not the best trading day. We've had worse, but just not a lot of good setups today. So we'll see what tomorrow brings. We're starting to get back up into the overbought territory again, and so I mean, this market wants to go higher. Uh, so don't argue with it if it does go higher. Just whatever the chart's showing you, that's what we got to go with. If we're getting a correction, we'll trade the correction down, and if it wants to go higher, we'll go higher with it. So um, don't argue with it. That's basically the point I'm trying to make. Whatever it's giving you, that's what we got to take. So if it's a range day, if the trend is big enough within the range, you can trade the trend. Otherwise, trade range rules. So anyway, that's going to probably wrap it up for today. So I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.